Good morning everyone. Welcome to Byjus Exam Prep IAS. Welcome to the Hindu analysis of 28th June 2024. A very lengthy newspaper today. We shall be covering a lot of articles today. And as you can see, there are 9 topics that have to be covered in detail. Now, let me take it. Now, which are these topics? Number 1, blueprints beyond borders for solace and shelter. Now, please understand, we are today having the World Refugee Day. 28th June is celebrated as World Refugee Day, and that's why a very good article has been brought today in the Hindu and written by Mr. and Dr. Shashi Tharoor. So we shall be seeing that first article. Of course, you can see the second and third articles are related to them only. One is related to the Rohingya refugees. It is talking about the problems that they are facing, specifically the women as far as India is concerned. And the third one is decades of uncertainty for Tibetans. More than 60 years, almost around 65 years, Dalai Lama had come to our country, and after that, almost more than 1 lakh of Tibetans are there in India, but they are having an uncertain future, so we shall see that. Fourth topic comes from your Tamil Nadu, and committee talking about the caste symbols to be removed from schools. So we shall see what exactly they are saying. Fifth topic would be UGC NET cancelled over irregularity, CBI probe ordered. Not much here, but coming in the backdrop of NET, what it is going on here is not something great, and that has to be looked into. Sixth, Union Cabinet gives go-ahead to increase MSP of 14 Kharif crops. Very, very important news for the crores of farmers of our country. And the MSP has been increased for many of these crops, in fact for 14 crops. Need to ask if decline in equality is a good thing. Mr. Debro is speaking. We shall see what exactly he is saying here. The inequality going down, in his view, not always the best thing, but we shall see. Russia, North Korea sign defense pact, vote to assist each other if attacked. Now, not a great news for the Western world because North Korea usually considered as a rogue nation, coming closer to Russia, and they both coming together. Though historically they have been together. You all would have studied in world history the Korean War, how the North Korea had gone and had the support of Russians. The South Korea had the support of the Western world. Ninth topic, India to hold Kanishk Memorial event as Canada mounts Niger. Now, very, very unfortunate news coming from Canada, because what Canadian authorities are doing, celebrating hardliner separatists, is something not good, and this is not going to help the Indo-Canada relations in any way. Beyond these 9, there are, there was no space there, so I've written it here. There are 3 more topics. Number 1, India-US working to scale up partnership on critical minerals. We studied day before yesterday, something related to that, important for Indo-US relations from the mains perspective. The 10th topic, a torrid crisis, and the 11th topic, Indian cities are heat traps that make summers worse official. This is what is going on in North India right now, the extreme, summer that we are facing. This is talking about that. 4th, India eyes breakthrough against sickle cell anemia. Now, this is related to prelims. We shall see which ministry is, talking about this. Very, very important. Hamare Bara gets nod for release after deleting some scenes. We have talked about this movie 2 times earlier, and I think final closure is going to come this time. 6th, PM inaugurates Nalanda University campus in Bihar. A very beautiful campus, very good news coming from Bihar. And lastly, 7th, climate activists vandalize Stonehenge monument. So a monument in Britain being, vandalized by climate activists. I took this 6th and 7th article for one quotation that has come in this article, and they are really beautiful quotations. So if you look, 9 plus 7, there are 16 overall topics that we have to see. And we'll start with the first one. I already told you, we are celebrating the World Refugee Day on June 28th. This article is written by Mr. Shashi Tharoor, Member of Parliament, Congress, spent 11 years working as the UN High Commissioner for Refugees, including 3.5 years as the head of its Singapore office at the peak of the Vietnamese Boat People Crisis. He's also an author, columnist, long advocated the passage of refugee and asylum law in India. Now, this is really a good article. And I'm not going to do, those areas where he's criticizing the government, but then any question on refugee, if you read this one article, will give you a very good answer. Now, I'll just tell you the important points over here. First of all, I told you this is the World Refugee Day. And please see, this is the number, 43.4 million refugees as far as the world is concerned. And you can understand, with so much of crisis happening all across the world, this number is only going to increase. Now, you all understand these refugees, they face a lot of hard times, and that's why we should not see them only as stats. We should see them as human beings who have need, who have fears, who have hopes, and who have wants. So this is a very good introduction line. If you get any question on this thing, you can see here this line. But as it rises, we also run the risk of treating these people as figures in a statistical compilation and not human beings with needs, fears, hopes, and wants. And this is a good line. Remember it. As I said, why are we, having so many articles on this today, World Refugee Day? And this is very, very important point here. What it says is, India is neither a signatory to the UN Refugee Convention, which outlines the rights of asylum seekers and refugees alongside the obligations of host states, nor to its 1967 protocol. Very, very important. Please understand. Before I come to this, look at our past. In one complete, this slide, Mr. Tharoor is talking about our glorious past, right from ancient times. If you see, India has always helped refugees. Whether you talk about Jews, who before Christ had fled to India, once their Jerusalem temple had been destroyed or demolished by the Babylonians, and then later by the Romans. Then we helped Zoroastrians, who had fled from Persia because they were facing Islamic persecution. Then in the recent past, in 1971 in East Bengal, we helped the Bengali people, whether they were Hindus, Muslims, everybody was helped by us, who were being persecuted by Pakistani military. So this is 1971, and leading to ultimate formation of Bangladesh. And similarly, if you talk about Sri Lanka, we have helped the Tamils. You talk about, later we'll be talking about Tibetans. And then there are hosts of people, whether they are Nepalis, Afghans, now, Rohingyas. So when it comes to report card of India, as far as refugees are concerned, India has a glorious past. There is absolutely no denial. And if you look at our own history, at the time of independence, when India was partitioned, there were almost 13 to 15 million people who had crossed the borders. So we have had a great, history when it comes to refugee handling. We have helped the refugees always through ancient to modern times. So this is the basic introduction of this. And now Mr. Tharoor talks about that when we have such a great history, now what we require is, we require a suitable legislation. Because then you can see here, he's talking about that we are neither a signatory to the UN Refugee Convention, nor we are, alongside the obligation, nor to its 1967 protocol. So, Mr. Tharoor is now speaking that what India needs is a legislation. Because he is saying we have not signed these, we are not bound by those laws, we do not have asylum framework. Rather, you can write it domestic asylum framework. We don't have this. So he says that he had introduced a private bill in February 2022, private member bill in Lok Sabha. And he says that this was to have a refugee and asylum law. Now everyone, this bill was defeated, but there are some salient aspects of this bill which he points out. For example, he says he had a comprehensive criteria in order to recognize asylum seekers and refugees. He said that in his bill he mentioned no country should send a person to a place where they may suffer persecution. So if there is a danger to somebody's life, the person might be persecuted, in such a scenario, none of the countries should send that person back to that particular country. This is one of the highlights of this bill, which he said was highlighted as Asylum Bill 2021. He says had come on the close event of the fact that some refugees who had come from Myanmar, the Rohingyas, had been expelled by India. And in his view, our government had done, this violated international law, and also he accuses the government being accused of religious bigotry because these refugees were Muslims. Now, in his point of view, not only to them, the government has also been hostile to the Chakmas in Arunachal Pradesh and Myanmaris as far as Mizoram are concerned. So, in Mr. Tharoor's viewpoint, his bill would have taken care of all this. So, under no circumstance, any government would expel a person where they are likely going to face persecution. So, without, the biasness of nationality, race, religion, his bill would have worked. Now, let us come to the last part. In this, as I said, in this part he has talked about the pitch for suitable legislation. So let us look at, do we have any such legislations already enacted in our country or not? And I want you to highlight it in this thing only. You can see, he says, we have a flurry of such laws as the Foreigners Act 1946, the Registration of Foreigner Act 1939, the Passports Act 1967, the Extradition Act 1962, the Citizenship Act 1955, including its ominous 2019 amendment, and the Foreigners Order 1948, all of which club all foreign individuals together as aliens. So, I ask you to remember all these laws, but you can see when it comes to refugees, they are guided by so many laws and all such law treat them as aliens. So, he says that India should now have a national asylum law. He says why the requirement of such a law? Because India now hosts more than 2 lakh refugees, and therefore it is needed. Lastly, he talks in the last paragraph about judiciary, and very, very important from polity's perspective, this the first point that I'm going, please remember it from polity's angle for prelims also. In 1996, Supreme Court said that not only Indians but everybody living in India irrespective of their nationality they enjoy all the rights given by Article 14, 20, 21 of the Constitution of India. So please remember, these articles are not only for the Indian people, but these are for the foreigners also. And here only the landmark case, the NHRC, National Human Rights Commission versus State of Arunachal Pradesh happened, under which the forced eviction of the Chakma refugees was stopped. So again I'm saying, if you remember this much, what I have written, what I have told in this article, please remember the topic of refugee is done for you. And I'll add some more points based on the next 2 articles. You can see, let us look at the other 2 articles for the day. Invisible Suffering of Rohingya Refugees, written by Madam Priyali Soor, founder and executive director of the Azadi Project. Now, please understand, in this, you don't have to read this whole thing. Again, coming on the background of World Refugee Day, what the lady is writing is that the Rohingyas who have been living in India have, come from Myanmar, had faced a lot of issues over there. And now when they have come to India, here also they are facing a lot of hardships, a lot of psychological issues, problems that they are facing. And in this article, the traumas of those people have been clearly, storied, has been told to the people. But we don't have to, remember each and every specific example. The most important points that come out of this is, according to United Nations Human Commissioner for Refugees, UNHCR data from December 2023, more than 22,000 Rohingya refugees live in India. So this is a very, very important article that you have to remember. Very important point. Most of these refugees came to India between 2012 to 17. This is the period when the Myanmar military had started the clearance operation, under which thousands of Rohingyas were killed, women were raped, and all such things had happened. Now, invariably these Rohingyas faced trauma over there. Now they came to India. And here, as you can understand, they were labeled as illegal immigrants. And according to article, they were denied full access to education, basic health, legal services, and formal livelihood opportunities. So the article says that first of all they faced all these issues in Myanmar, and after coming to India also they are facing these issues. Along with this, article says a lot of time these Rohingyas, they have been put under detention, which article says many times was arbitrary. Of course, they talk about arbitrary deportation also. So, this article is talking, because of all these problems, most of the people, these immigrants who are living in India, they face a lot of hardship. They are all the time, having anxiety, they are having fear, so they are under these trouble. Now, please understand, as I said, in this there are lots of interviews that are given, but we don't have to get into that. Last thing that is being talked about is that Rohingya refugees, almost 10 lakh Rohingya refugees are there in Bangladesh also. And the author writes that there has been a lot of attention on these refugees from the world, but then the mental health epidemic that is being faced by Rohingyas in India, there is very less focus. And that's what she says, that we need to have a multi-pronged approach to deal with this. Again, article had some important points which I have mentioned. Again, I'm giving you some examples. This is Refugee Day, so we can look into this. Please remember, there are certain organizations which are working for them, like UNHCR supported organizations. Okay, moving ahead. Decades of uncertainty for the Tibetans. Now, another World Refugee Day article. You can see what is happening. What has happened here? You can see the first line of this article is, they are neither foreigners nor are they refugees. So, very, very, tough situation even after 60 years of Tibetan arrival in our country. We all know in 1959, thousands of Tibetans had come to our country. And this was along with the arrival of the great Dalai Lama. His Holiness Dalai Lama had come to our country in 1959. Mr. Nehru's government provided asylum and did offer assistance for the temporary settlement of these. Now, in 60 years, you can understand, those who would have come that point, now their third generation settlers are living in India. But then, this article says that the third generation or second generation also, if they are alive, they are facing a lot of issues. Mainly because, in the first article of Mr. Tharoor only we said, India is not a signatory of UN conventions on refugees. Plus they say India's citizenship laws. All this complicates the matter for the Tibetans. Now, please, we have already spoken about the first point in the first article, that we are not a signatory to this. How does this, get complicated? So please understand, I'll tell you, if anyone wants to live in India, first of all, they have to obtain registration certificate, which is applicable to foreigners, now, this is under the law of Foreigners Registration Act 1946 and Registration of Foreigners Rule. Now, if somebody is traveling abroad and entering from Nepal, identity certificate is needed and special entry permits are needed. Now, in 2016, Union Home Ministry made the process a bit simpler. Now, this RC can be renewed online and the period has been relaxed to 5 years. So, this is the thing. Now in this article, there is, 2 points which is slightly confusing. I'll tell you how. See here. First of all, it is written here, the Tibetan rehabilitation policy formulated by MHA, the Tibetan population in India stood at 1.1 lakh in 2009, which I have mentioned for you here. In the next line only, they write, according to MHA's 2022-23 annual report, per the latest census 2019 conducted by Central Tibetan Relief Committee CTRC, the population of Tibetan refugees in India was 73,404. So, if you look at here, 2009 stats say 1.1 lakh refugees. On the other hand, 2019, this says 73,400 Tibetan refugees. So, my thing is, this is a huge drop when it comes to refugees of your Tibet. Almost 37,000 people, going down. And Union government, I'll tell you in the next slide. Okay, I need another slide for this. Okay, I'll write here for 1 minute. Please understand. The Union government, they have formulated a policy in consultation with CTRC. This is Dalai Lama's, CTRC. The full form is Central Tibetan Relief Committee. And with this, they have formulated a policy to address the problems faced by the community. And in 2015, NDA government had sanctioned 40 crore rupees for them for 5 years. This has been re-given, extended for another 5 years. Now for prelims, one important point is the Tibetans, their majority, whatever the number that might be, the maximum number of Tibetan citizens in India, they live in Karnataka. Now this is something many people would think Himachal, Dharamshala and all that, but then Karnataka hosts around 21,000 Tibetan refugees, Himachal Pradesh around 15,000, Arunachal Pradesh around 5,000, similarly Uttarakhand 5,000, West Bengal 3,000 and Ladakh 7,000. So if you look, these 6 union territories and the states, together they host 36, 41, 46, 49, 56,000 of the Tibetan refugees. So out of 36 states and union territory in India, 6 of them are hosting 56. Out of, if I take the 2019 number, 73,000. So majority of your Tibetan refugees are in these areas. Now last part of this, which now comes to the topic, and I'll take a separate slide for this. Just give me a second. Yeah. So now the thing is, they are uncertain about their future. Which has resulted that a lot of Tibetans are migrating from India, specifically the younger ones. What is happening here is that when they travel to other countries, they get citizenship much more easier, whereas in India, the IC is very, very difficult to get. The problem they say is that in India, we are all the time in temporary position. And that's why in India, they say we cannot buy property. And this is resulting into the fact that half of the Tibetans are moving abroad and acquiring citizenship. Now, why are they not getting citizenship in India? To this, one point that they are raising is that Indian citizenship comes with a caveat. Government says that these people will have to give up the benefit that comes, and they will have to give up the rights to visit the settlement camps. So people say in the settlement camps our parents and our relatives live, and if we cannot travel over there, we are not ready to, leave it. Even though, that's why I'm making it very, very clear that Citizenship Act 1955 states very clearly that anyone who is born between January 26, 1950 and before July 1st, 1987 are citizens by birth. There are only few Tibetans, in spite of this, who have taken Indian citizenship by going to the courts. So, almost half an hour we gave to this particular one topic, that is your, refugee thing. Let us move ahead and go to Tamil Nadu, where we are finding some not a great news. What is happening? There is a committee, Justice K. Chandru committee, which was formed in Tamil Nadu. Now, why was it formed? Two scheduled caste students, and rather I should say they were siblings, they were murdered in an assault by the dominant community schoolmates. Now this is very horrific, very unfortunate, school-going citizens getting involved in this. So in this backdrop, the Tamil Nadu government, they came up with Justice K. Chandru committee. What they are suggesting is that, let's say if Rohit Kumar is a student and if he goes to the schools, I should not have any such thing which depicts my caste. That should not be happening. So for example, they are saying that people should not wear colored wristbands. You can see here, through which everybody's caste could be known. People should not have rings or marks on forehead like tilak and all, which would serve as caste identity. Apart from this, they say bicycles should not be used which are painted in such a manner which gives caste reference. They say school names should not bear any caste appellation. It is also talking about that the caste should be confidential as far as the pupils are concerned. Now, these are recommendations which have been given earlier also, because in the past also such clashes have been seen in Tamil Nadu. And if you see in many Tamil Nadu books, the caste surnames of popular leaders, they have been already erased. Apart from this, this committee also mentions that there should be a social justice monitoring committee that should be formed. Who would be there in this committee? Academicians and social activists. So that they would keep on checking the curriculum, that in the curriculum, what social issues are being taught. They may suggest modifications. They may push for, inclusion of particular topics and all such thing. Apart from this, they have also suggested that suggestion is to revise the B.Ed and diploma in elementary education syllabuses to ensure orientation towards inclusivity is also there. So these all are being suggested. And finally, they are saying ultimately the difference has to come from the villages. At the village level, there is need to have a transformation, and there should be a political will to transcend these caste differences. Then only these problems would come to an end. Let us move to the next topic. The next topic is UGC NET cancel. Now this is coming in the backdrop of NEET. That's why I have taken it. So this exam has been cancelled, your UGC NET. Why? Because according to the government, the integrity of the exam had been compromised. So Ministry of Home Affairs suggested this. Now, CBI is going to probe it. And again, this UGC NET exam is also conducted by NTA, National Testing Agency. If anyone does not have the idea why this UGC NET is conducted, it is conducted 2 times per year to determine the eligibility of candidates for the position of assistant professor, junior research fellowship assistant professor, or PhD admissions. So for all this UGC NET is done. There were inputs from Indian Cyber Crime Coordination Center, I4C, which is under the Ministry of Home Affairs, which said that prima facie the exam had been compromised. So, one thing that is coming out of this is opposition parties are asking if this exam can be cancelled. Why is the government not ready to cancel NEET? If UGC NET can be cancelled, the NEET exam also, where there are so many acquisitions going on, that should also have been cancelled, and a retest should have taken place. Moving ahead, let us move to another economy topic. Cabinet approved MSP hike for all the 14 Kharif season crops. So very, very important news. For example, paddy, 5.35%, it has been increased, and this is for 2024-25 Kharif marketing season. Now, please see, in alignment with the government's clear policy of keeping MSPs at least 1.5 times above the cost of production as calculated by the government. So, for example, bajra, 77% hike, arhar dal, 59%, maize, 54%, black gram, 52%. So, all this has happened. For paddy, almost an increase of 117 rupees per quintal. Now, in this article, it is mentioned that paddies, this has been increased in spite of the fact that government presently holds a record stockpile of rice, which is almost 4 times the required buffer. But then this has been done because you all know in October there are state elections going to happen in very, very important states like Maharashtra, Haryana, Jharkhand, Kashmir. In all these states there are going to be elections, and before that this has been done. So this MSP thing would cost government around 2 lakh crore, which is 35,000 crore higher than previous season. Now, please here you all have to study something on your own. For example, I mentioned paddy, I mentioned bajra, arhar dal, maize. Please find out the list of all those crops for which this MSP is done. So, for example, safflower, jute, sugar cane. That's one of the things. Another thing is which committee does it. This has been asked many a times. So remember, Commission for Agricultural Costs and Prices. They form a pricing report every year. Then they present their recommendation to government for different groups. So there might be 5 groups like Kharif crop, Rabi crop, sugar cane, raw jute, and coconut kernel. Now, after considering all this, the Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs, CCEA, takes the final decision. So please study about CACP, CCEA. These all are your, basics of economics. You must have studied them, and please study them again if you have not done that. Moving ahead, Mr. Vivek Debroy, need to ask if decline in equality is a good thing. He is the Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council's member, and basically he is the chairman of this body. So you can see he is the chairman of Prime Minister's Economic Advisory Council, and he is asking whether a decline in equality, which is being suggested by Household Consumption Expenditure Survey, is it a good thing or not? Now, in this article, one of the first things that he is pointing out that India, for the last many years, does not have an official poverty line. He says the last poverty line that was given to us was Suresh Tendulkar's recommendations, which had come in 2009. And at that moment, the panel had pegged that India's poverty line is 33 rupees for urban areas, 27 for rural areas. Mr. Devroy says after that there was another one committee, which was Rangarajan committee, that revisited this poverty threshold, and this was revisited in 2014, but it was not officially accepted. And as far as the Niti Aayog does, Niti Aayog gives MDPI. What is MDPI? This is multi-dimensional poverty index. He says it's not a poverty line. It is rather calculated using the results of National Family Health Survey. So based on this, he says that if you look 2009 and now we are in 2024, it's almost 15 years. There is a need to have a new poverty line. That's one point. Another thing is, what is there here? Need to ask if decline in equality is a good thing or not. He says, on the face it is good that the Gini coefficient, now in economics you all would have studied, this is a measure of economic inequality. So he says, on the face it is good that it has declined. We seem, to think it is a good thing. But he says one point one should always consider, that when economies grow, invariably, one has to remember, when economies prosper, inequality tends to widen a bit. That's the point that he's raising, that India as an economy is growing, and there is definitely a chance that this would go up a bit. Another point that he says is that this Gini coefficient should be seen not at a national level, but for different states, it should be seen separately. So these are certain highlights of, the points that are being raised by Mr. Devroy over here. Moving ahead, let's go to Russia. What is happening here? You can see Mr. Putin and Mr. Kim Jong-un. They both have vowed that they will mutually aid each other if their country faces aggression. Now, this is a new partnership, a new pact, clearly going to raise the standoff with the West. Now, it was yesterday only signed. The details are not very clear right now, but this clearly shows that North Korea and Russia, they are coming closer, and after Cold War, this is their closest, I would say, cooperation here. Clearly, they are coming very, very close at this point. Now, one important thing, Mr. Putin visited North Korea after 24 years. And you can see this is coming in the backdrop where US allies, they are pressurizing Moscow. And Moscow is fighting the war with Ukraine. According to both the sides, their relation, their friendship is a fiery relationship, fiery friendship. They are saying it's a breakthrough document. And one very important thing that's coming out is that both these countries had signed something similar treaty in 1961. Which experts say necessitated Moscow's military intervention if the North came under an attack. The deal was discarded after the collapse of USSR and replaced by a pact in 2000 that offered weaker security assurances. So you can say that in 1961 the relation was here. After Soviet Union's disintegration around 2000, it had come down. And again in 2024, it has gone up. Clearly, it shows that these two sides are, having much more cooperation. Oh, so that was one of the news from the international forum. Another very important news that is coming, and this is, I would say, a disgrace. Mr. Hardeep Singh Nijjar, who was assassinated last year. Who is he? He was a Khalistani separatist. And let me mention one more point. He was also a Canadian citizen. Now, Canada's parliament, what they have decided is that they stood for a moment of silence to mark 1 year since the killing of this man. Now, you all know, Canadian government also allowed these Khalistani groups to trek out processions in various parts of the country. They carried out anti-Indian slogans, and they were calling for a trial of Indian officials as well as Prime Minister Mr. Modi. Now, this all comes in the backdrop. In Italy, both the Prime Minister Mr. Modi and Mr. Trudeau had met, and there Mr. Trudeau had said that his top priority would be safeguarding Canadians. Now, in this background, the Ministry of External Affairs, what we have decided is that we are going to, remember what had happened in Kanishka. We are going to organize a memorial next week to mark the anniversary of bombing of Air India Kanishk jet flying the Montreal-Bombay route that was carried out by Khalistani separatists in 1985. The attack killed 329 people, including 268 Canadians and 24 Indians. Now, Mr. Trudeau talking about one Canadian being safeguarded, that's great, but what about these 329 innocent people who were killed by these Khalistani separatists? What about them? So our MEA, a Ministry of External Affairs, has asked the diaspora to attend it. Now, it's very, very visible that the relations between India and Canada are going down. Canada is only accusing us of having masterminded something. India is only asking them to share if they have any proof, if they have any evidence. And Canada is not understanding that they are giving, support to the, to the extremists who are hell-bent on working against the Indian integrity. And this is something that Indian government would never ever compromise. So that's about your India-Canada. Let's come to India-US. Now, one-side relations are not that good here, but we are doing a lot better. What has happened is, both the sides want to have a bilateral agreement. On which topic? For the cooperation on rare earth minerals. So, please understand, in July 2023, we had released a list of 30 minerals which are critical for the country, and we have been looking to acquire mines abroad in addition to expanding exploration within the country. To enable this, the Mines and Minerals Development and Regulation Act 1957 was amended through the MMDR Amendment Act 2023. Please remember this. And we incorporated a joint venture company. Please see the name of the joint venture company, Kabil. Kabil stands for Khanij Bidesh India Limited. Now please remember, it's a joint venture. Joint venture between whom? Equity contribution from 3 central public sector enterprises. The first one being National Aluminium Corporation Limited. No. National Aluminium Company Limited. Next, Hindustan Copper Limited. And the third one, Mineral Exploration and Consultancy Limited. So this joint venture Kabil is presently exploring opportunities for acquisition of critical mineral assets like lithium and cobalt in Australia, Argentina and Chile. So we are trying to do all of this. So clearly, for example, day before yesterday also when we were talking about Indo-US relations, both the sides are talking about co-investing in lithium resource project. Those who did not attend day before yesterday's lecture, we had talked about the Indo-US initiatives for critical and emerging technology, ICET. We had talked about that day before yesterday. So please understand, you don't have to remember the three companies' name. If you remember, it's good. But then do remember it's a joint venture. And please see, this year also 13 questions came from IR. Good chance that these questions would keep on coming. Now, everybody who is in North India, you all are feeling it's very, very hot right now. Northern India has been bearing the brunt of the longest stretch of heat waves in the last 15 years. Minimum day temperatures have remained above 45 degrees Celsius, and those in the relatively cooler ones are at least 3 to 6 degrees above the usual at this point. Night temperature also is consistently 3 to 6 degrees above normal, which is a consequence of near absence of moisture and rain. Moisture, or I would rather say monsoon, has been sluggish. Though Indian Meteorological Department had said that rainfall in India in June would be normal, now they have clearly said that this year it's going to be below normal. Along with this, in this article they are saying that Power Ministry has pointed out that the demand for electricity has gone up to 89 gigawatts. That's highest for a single day. And that's why to get this much of electricity, almost 25 to 30% of this was imported. From 4 other regions. Now, one thing I must say, this 89 gigawatt was in the northern sector. We are talking about North India. So this was brought from south, east, west, northeast, and even Bhutan. So they have not given the exact breakup, but this is the thing. And what they are demanding, what this article is saying, that bearing in mind what is happening, this should be now termed as a natural disaster. Because if you see, along with this power crisis, Delhi is also suffering from water crisis. Water crisis or water pilferage is common problem. And all this is definitely hurting the people of Delhi, the people of North India at this point of time. Moving ahead, another article that has come. Indian cities are heat traps that make summers worse. See, if you all talk to your relatives, everybody would say that they had never experienced something like this. Even at nights, what is happening is that the cities are very, very hot and people are getting irritated, if I say in simple words. So one of the points that they are saying is that the Indian cities have become heat traps due to their unbalanced growth, devouring water bodies and increasing greenhouse emissions. Most of the lakes, have been killed in the Indian cities. And as I said, temperature has stayed above 40 degrees Celsius, for example in Delhi, since May 12. And this is going to go down only after June 26. So you can see this is one of the lengthiest heat wave that is going on. Of course, climate change has played its role. Climate change has, resulted that this heat waves are going on. But then they are saying unbalanced urban growth is also, one of the factors. What it has done is the wetlands and the water bodies, they have been reduced. Of course, the GHG, the greenhouse gases, they are going up. And the permeable space has gone down. Now think about this. Wetlands in the cities have gone down. Greenhouse gases have gone up. So permeable space has gone down. Invariably, what it results is that the cities, they have become a gas chamber, or I should not use that word. I would rather use that, the better word, heat trap. That's the best word if I say. So it has become a heat trap. Now, this has resulted that even the nights are as uncomfortable as the days. The studies say that earlier what used to happen is that the night temperature would fall down by almost 13 degrees Celsius in Delhi, Bombay, Kolkata, Hyderabad. But then, between 2004 to 23, this has gone down by only 11.5 degree. So, the hot nights are almost as dangerous as midday peak temperature. So, all this is the thing that, is causing so much of, problems for the people. Now, do we have solutions for this? Yes, we have solutions. There are heat action plans. What is this? Provision of drinking water, better medical facilities, rescheduling of work, heat insulation of buildings, development of shelters for the poor people, and investment in cooling water body. But the problem is, in all this, what is required is money, and the Indian cities don't have that sort of financial resources to take care of this. Let us come to the prelims topics. The first prelims topic, India eyes breakthrough against sickle cell. Now please see, India is getting closer to developing a gene therapy for sickle cell disease, a genetic blood disorder with high prevalence rate amongst the scheduled tribe. Discussed earlier also. Please remember, this that we are developing is a gene therapy in which we are using CRISPR-Cas9, which is a gene editing tool. Now please understand, this conference was organized, National Conclave on Generating Awareness on Sickle Cell Disease, was organized by Tribal Affairs Ministry. Please remember this very tricky point, because mind would say it should be organized by Health Ministry. But why is this ministry organizing it? Because this sickle cell anemia is seen a lot in scheduled tribes. Along with this, there was, Birsa Munda Center at AIMS also, which was, looking after this. So, the officials of the tribal ministry, they are saying it's a good news. And the only problem now is that how do we make this therapy cost effective? Please study about CRISPR-Cas9, which is a gene editing tool, which consists of an enzyme that behaves like molecular scissors. What it does is, it would cut a piece of DNA at a precise location and then would guide the RNA to insert a changed genetic code at the exact precision point. So you can see here, the last slide you can see here. This is very important for prelims. Moving ahead. 3 times we have seen, or 2 times we have seen this yesterday. This Bombay High Court bench has watched this movie, which is starring Mr. Anu Kapoor, and there was neither anything objectionable against the Quran nor against the Muslim community, and they said the film instead aims at uplifting women in society. So please understand, the makers have to delete certain scenes, bring some disclaimers at certain points, and then they are asked to release the movie. And they said that in the first trailer, the movie had removed certain objectionable scenes, but then they imposed a fine on this production because they had released the trailer before receiving the certification from CBFC. So please remember now, one last thing that comes, which we have to see what the Karnataka government does with regards to this, because we all remember Karnataka government had banned this movie in their territory. Moving ahead, very important, very good news coming from your Nalanda. PM inaugurates Nalanda University campus in Bihar. You all can see such a beautiful campus in front of you, which has an amphitheater that can seat 2,000 people. Now, if I go in the history, first of all, let me talk about Prime Minister Mr. Narendra Modi has inaugurated this campus. And this is a very good article, very good quotation that Prime Minister said yesterday. Nalanda is the proclamation of this truth, that books may burn in the flames of fire, but the flames of fire cannot destroy knowledge. Nalanda is an identity, respect and pride. I found this to be a very good statement. Now, to just give you an idea, this Nalanda University was established by Parliament's Act, that was Nalanda University Act 2010. This act had formed the basis for implementing the decisions that had been arrived at Second East Asia Summit in Philippines in 2007 for the establishment of this university as an international institution for pursuit of intellectual, philosophical, historical, spiritual studies, and at the fourth summit in Thailand also, that is in 2009. So in 7 and 9 it was done. The ancient Nalanda University was established in the 5th century. It attracted students from all over the world. The ancient university flourished for 800 years before it was burned down by invaders in the 12th century. In the webinar, we are going to talk about, just a second, we will definitely talk about this topic in the this month's webinar. So I'm not going to talk about Nalanda University here, but then Prime Minister visited the ruins of Nalanda and also planted a sapling of the Bodhi tree that was brought from Bodh Gaya. So all that was done over here. Please remember, this would be one of the topics for our webinar, which we will be doing in the month. Moving ahead, last topic for the day, climate activists vandalize Stonehenge monument. You can see the monuments and how, this orange color is being thrown on this. What is Stonehenge? It's a prehistoric rock monument in Wiltshire, England. Built around 3000 BC and 1500 BC. Very significant historically because most probably it was a gathering place for rituals during both summer and winter solstices, as the position of the stone aligns in specific ways with the sun's trajectory on these days. Now, why are these people, they are climate activists of Just Stop Oil. They did it. See, this is not the best way to do this, and that's why everybody is criticizing. But again, this article gives a very good statement. If you can remember this, standing inert, just a second, for generation, works well for stones, not climate policy. So this is a very good statement that climate policies need some urgency from the side of the government, because if we don't do this, we are stuck. And let us move ahead to the two questions for the day. The first question, the mains question, was explain the main basis for determining MSP in the agricultural sector in India. Explain its advantages and disadvantages. Those who have done the agriculture portion would know this. Question number 2, Indian cities are converting into heat traps, and this is a major reason for worsening summer conditions. Explain this. So this is 150 words 10 marker. Do attempt these questions, try to answer, write the answer, and let us meet at the same place tomorrow. and we'll discuss further tomorrow's newspaper tomorrow. Goodbye till then. Thank you. Bye-bye.